There is one vitamin that 70% of adults over 70 are clinically deficient in right now. Not borderline low, not slightly below optimal, clinically deficient, at levels that peer-reviewed research has linked directly to accelerated muscle loss, chronic fatigue that doesn't respond to sleep, increased fall risk, impaired immune function, cognitive decline, and a significantly elevated risk of cardiovascular events. And the extraordinary, almost infuriating, part of this story is how simple the correction is, how inexpensive, how accessible, and how dramatically the research shows physical function, muscle strength, and energy levels can improve when that deficiency is corrected in adults over 70. Your doctor may have checked this level at some point, but did they check it recently? Did they check it at the right time of year? Did they recheck it after correcting it to confirm you reached adequacy? Did they explain what the number actually means for your muscles, your energy, and your independence? Most adults over 70 haven't had that full conversation, and the gap between what this vitamin does and what most people know about it is costing people function, strength, and quality of life that the research says is recoverable. Today we close that gap. Here is what that deficiency is doing to your muscles and energy. Mechanism number 1. The muscle gene activator. How vitamin D directly governs muscle protein synthesis. Every muscle cell in your body contains vitamin D receptors, VDRs, embedded in the cell nucleus. When calcitriol, the active vitamin D hormone, enters the muscle cell and binds to these receptors, it functions as a direct gene expression regulator. It turns on the genes responsible for muscle protein synthesis, muscle fiber growth, and muscle cell differentiation. This is not a secondary or indirect effect. Vitamin D is a direct anabolic signal in muscle tissue, and when it is absent, when vitamin D receptors in muscle cells have no calcitriol to bind, the gene expression program for muscle maintenance and growth is partially silenced. The specific impact is on type 2 muscle fibers, the fast twitch fibers responsible for the rapid, powerful contractions required for balance recovery, fall prevention, and functional strength. Type 2 fiber atrophy is the primary muscle change associated with sarcopenia in older adults. And vitamin D deficiency specifically accelerates type 2 fiber loss in a way that inadequate dietary protein alone does not explain. Muscle biopsies from vitamin D deficient older adults show characteristic type 2 fiber atrophy with abnormal mitochondrial morphology. The mitochondria inside the muscle cells appear structurally abnormal. When vitamin D deficiency is corrected, repeat biopsies show improvement in both fiber size and mitochondrial architecture. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that vitamin D supplementation in deficient older adults significantly increased type 2 muscle fiber diameter and improved functional lower extremity strength over 12 weeks. The researchers confirmed through biopsy analysis that the mechanism operated at the gene expression level inside the muscle cells themselves. A second study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that adults over 70 with vitamin D levels below 20 nanograms per milliliter had significantly greater type 2 fiber atrophy on biopsy compared to those with adequate levels, and that correction of deficiency to above 30 nanograms per milliliter was associated with measurable fiber hypertrophy over 6 months. The practical implication? Vitamin D supplementation without adequate blood levels to document deficiency is guesswork. With documented deficiency below 30 nanograms per milliliter, supplementation is not optional for muscle health. It is restorative. The muscle cells have been waiting for the gene activation signal that only calcitriol can provide. Mechanism number 2, the mitochondrial energy restorer, the direct link between vitamin D and how you feel each day. This mechanism is the one most directly responsible for the energy dimension of vitamin D deficiency, and the one most frequently dismissed as vague or subjective. The fatigue of vitamin D deficiency is real, it is physiological, and it has a precise biochemical explanation. Mitochondria, the energy-producing organelles inside every cell, require vitamin D for optimal function. Vitamin D receptors are present in mitochondria, and calcitriol directly regulates the expression of genes encoding the electron transport chain proteins, the molecular machinery that converts nutrients into ATP, the chemical energy currency the cell uses for everything it does. When vitamin D is deficient, electron transport chain efficiency falls. ATP production per unit of metabolic substrate decreases. Cells, including muscle cells and brain cells, are generating less energy from the same food. The result is the pervasive, persistent fatigue that does not improve with adequate sleep, adequate nutrition, or rest. Because the energy deficit is not about intake, it is about the conversion efficiency of the machinery inside each cell. A study from the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism found that vitamin D deficient adults showed significantly reduced mitochondrial oxidative capacity compared to vitamin D sufficient adults, with the difference in mitochondrial function correlating directly with blood vitamin D levels across the full range studied. A second study from Newcastle University found that vitamin D supplementation in deficient adults with documented fatigue significantly improved self-reported energy levels and objective measures of muscle endurance over 10 to 12 weeks, with the improvement attributable to improved mitochondrial function confirmed by phosphocreatine recovery rate measurements. The clinical experience I have seen in patients mirrors this research precisely. Adults who have been fatigued for years, who have had thyroid levels checked, iron levels checked, sleep evaluated, and whose vitamin D level, when finally checked, comes back at 12 or 15 nanograms per milliliter, corrected to adequate levels over 3 to 4 months. And then describe, almost uniformly, a quality of energy they had not experienced in years. The fatigue of vitamin D deficiency is not aging, it is correctable biochemistry. Mechanism number 3, the neuromuscular coordinator, how vitamin D prevents the falls that change everything. Muscle strength and fall risk are not the same thing. You can have reasonable strength and still fall if the neural coordination between brain and muscle is impaired. This distinction is critical, and it is where vitamin D's role becomes even more important than its direct muscle effects. Neuromuscular function, the speed and accuracy with which nerve signals activate muscle fibers, depends on vitamin D in the nervous system itself. Vitamin D receptors are present throughout the brain and peripheral nervous system. Calcitriol regulates the synthesis of nerve growth factors, supports the myelination of nerve fibers, the insulating coating that speeds signal transmission, and modulates the neurotransmitter systems involved in motor coordination and balance. In vitamin D deficient older adults, proprioception, the body's sense of its own position in space, is impaired. The small muscle fibers responsible for making the constant, rapid micro-adjustments that keep you upright on uneven surfaces are slower to respond. The time from sensing instability to corrective muscle activation is longer. Falls occur in that gap. A meta-analysis published in the British Medical Journal, pooling data from multiple randomized controlled trials, found that vitamin D supplementation in older adults reduced fall frequency by an average of 23% compared to placebo. This was specifically the population-level effect of correcting deficiency, not a pharmacological intervention, just restoring a physiological baseline. A study from the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research found that adults over 70 with vitamin D levels in the adequate range had significantly better balance test scores, faster postural correction response times, and lower fall rates over 12 months than those with deficient levels, independent of muscle strength, providing evidence that the neuromuscular coordination benefit operates separately from the direct muscle effect. A 23% reduction in fall frequency. In a population where falls are the leading cause of injury-related death and loss of independence, this number represents lives not altered by a hip fracture, independence not surrendered to injury, years not spent in rehabilitation. From correcting a vitamin deficiency. Mechanism number 4, the immune and inflammation regulator, how vitamin D reduces the chronic inflammation destroying your muscle. I've described inflammaging, the chronic low-grade systemic inflammation of aging, in multiple videos as one of the primary drivers of age-related decline across organ systems. In the muscle specifically, inflammatory cytokines, particularly TNF-alpha and IL-6, directly impair muscle protein synthesis and accelerate protein degradation. Muscle is being broken down faster than it can be rebuilt in a chronically inflamed environment. Vitamin D is a direct and potent regulator of the immune system and inflammatory cascade. Calcitriol suppresses the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines and stimulates the production of anti-inflammatory compounds. It activates regulatory T cells, immune cells that dampen excessive inflammatory responses, and it suppresses NF-kappa B, the master inflammatory switch I've described in kidney and liver health videos, that drives the cytokine production most damaging to muscle tissue. A study published in the Journal of Immunology found that vitamin D significantly reduced TNF-alpha and IL-6 production in immune cells from older adults, with the reduction most pronounced in those with the lowest baseline vitamin D levels, confirming that deficiency was actively permitting the elevated inflammatory state. A second study from the Clinical Nutrition Journal found that vitamin D supplementation in older adults with documented deficiency significantly reduced CRP, the primary clinical marker of systemic inflammation, over 12 weeks of correction, with improvements in muscle strength and physical function correlated with the degree of CRP reduction. This means that vitamin D is addressing muscle health from two directions simultaneously, directly through VDR activation in muscle cells promoting protein synthesis, and indirectly through immune regulation, reducing the inflammatory cytokines that break muscle down. The two-pronged mechanism is why its impact on sarcopenia is so clinically significant and so consistently documented. Mechanism number 5. The hormone harmonizer. Vitamin D's role in testosterone and anabolic hormone support. The final mechanism is one of the most significant for older adult vitality and one of the least discussed in mainstream vitamin D conversations. Vitamin D receptors are present in the Leydig cells of the testes, the cells responsible for testosterone production, and in the equivalent hormone-producing tissues in women. Calcitriol directly regulates the expression of enzymes involved in sex hormone synthesis. In men specifically, adequate vitamin D levels support testosterone production through a mechanism that operates independently of the hypothalamic-pituitary-gonadal axis. After 70, testosterone levels decline naturally in men, a process called andropause, contributing to reduced muscle mass, reduced bone density, reduced energy, and reduced drive. This decline is real and clinically significant, but it is amplified in men who are simultaneously vitamin D deficient, because the calcitriol signal that supports testosterone synthesis in Leydig cells is absent. A study published in Hormone and Metabolic Research found a strong positive correlation between vitamin D levels and testosterone levels in a large cohort of men, with men in the highest vitamin D quartile having significantly higher testosterone than those in the lowest quartile. A second interventional study found that vitamin D supplementation in deficient men significantly increased testosterone levels over 12 months compared to placebo. In women, vitamin D similarly supports the hormonal signaling pathways involved in muscle anabolism, including the sensitivity of muscle cells to estrogen-related anabolic signals, contributing to the improved muscle maintenance seen in women with adequate vitamin D status compared to those who are deficient. This hormonal dimension means that vitamin D is not just a muscle nutrient in the direct sense. It is a hormonal environment regulator, supporting the endocrine conditions that allow aging muscle to respond more effectively to the protein and exercise inputs it receives. Here is the complete, clinically responsible framework for using vitamin D to support muscle function and energy after 70. Step 1. Get your blood level tested first. Ask your physician for serum 25-hydroxyvitamin D at your next appointment. If you haven't had it checked in the past year, request it now. A result below 30 nanograms per milliliter, ideally a result below 40, indicates deficiency or insufficiency that warrants correction. Step 2. Choose the right form. Vitamin D3, cholecalciferol, is the preferred supplemental form. It is more effective than D2 at raising blood levels and is the same form produced by skin synthesis. Take it with your fattest meal of the day, lunch or dinner, as fat-soluble vitamins require dietary fat for optimal absorption. A tablespoon of olive oil, a serving of eggs or fatty fish, or a serving of full-fat yogurt all provide adequate fat for absorption. Step 3. Take vitamin K2 alongside it. As I described in my previous video, vitamin D increases calcium absorption from the gut. Vitamin K2, MK7 form, 90 to 200 micrograms, directs that calcium into bone and away from arterial walls. Take them together with the same fat-containing meal. Step 4. Start at a moderate dose and retest. For documented deficiency below 20 nanograms per milliliter, a correction dose of 2,000 to 4,000 IU daily, under physician guidance, is typically appropriate. Retest after 3 months. Adjust dose to achieve and maintain a level between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. Do not self-escalate to 10,000 IU doses without physician supervision and ongoing monitoring. Step 5. Support it with food sources daily. Wild salmon, 400 to 600 IU per serving. Sardines, 300 IU per serving. Eggs, 40 to 50 IU per yolk. Fortified dairy or plant milk, 100 IU per cup. These food sources do not replace supplementation in deficient older adults, but they contribute meaningfully to daily vitamin D intake and reduce the supplemental dose required. Step 6. Add magnesium. Vitamin D conversion to its active hormonal form requires magnesium as a cofactor. Magnesium deficiency, extremely common in adults over 70, impairs vitamin D activation even when blood storage levels appear adequate. Take magnesium glycinate 200 to 400 milligrams in the evening, as I described in previous videos. I want to close with something I want you to sit with. The fatigue you've attributed to aging, the muscle weakness you've accepted as inevitable, the falls you've become more cautious about, the grip that isn't what it used to be, the stairs that take more effort than they did 2 years ago. These things may not be aging. They may be a vitamin deficiency, a deficiency that a single blood test identifies, and a modest daily supplement, taken correctly, monitored appropriately, guided by a physician, can meaningfully address. I cannot tell you how many patients I have seen go from resigned acceptance of functional decline to genuine surprise at what changed when we corrected their vitamin D level. Not a miracle, not a reversal of every aspect of aging, but a recovery of function that they had genuinely believed was gone. Muscle they thought had been replaced by weakness, energy they assumed had retired along with their professional life. The research supports that experience, and the blood test is where it starts. Make that appointment. Ask for the 25-hydroxyvitamin D test by name. Take the result to your physician and have the specific conversation about what it means for your muscle function, your fall risk, and your energy. That is a 20-minute investment with a potential return measured in years of stronger, more independent living. If this video gave you something genuinely useful, a test to request, a conversation to have, a supplement to optimize, please consider subscribing. Every week I bring you this same quality of honest, specific, clinically grounded information with nothing to sell and nothing to hide. Next week I'm going to cover the 5-day muscle reset plan, a specific combination of dietary, supplementation, and exercise inputs that research shows produces measurable improvements in physical function in older adults within 1 week. Based on the same science I've built this entire series on, you will want to be there for that one. Until then, get the blood test, take the vitamin with the good fat, add the K2, and give your muscle cells the hormonal signal they have been waiting for. Your strength is not finished. It is waiting for the right information.